she's wicked. She has this electricity in her demeanor that is just so fun to play.
When the Snow White actress is causing more harm to the movie than the evil queen could possibly do, you know something is wrong. Rachel Zegler, at the very least, had a reason for her actions. Her only possession was a microphone. What about Disney? The way they are standing there as if they are asking, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, why is everyone roasting us in the comments section?" The decision was made to give Snow White, one of their most iconic classics, a modern makeover, with the exception that rather than a glow-up, it received a complete personality lobotomy. And in the midst of this complete and utter breakdown of the makeover, somehow Rachel Zegler managed to transform one of the most cherished princesses into the protagonist of what critics are referring to as the worst reboot that Disney has ever attempted. South Park waltzed in, set the debris on fire, then moonwalked out, while flipping the bird while Disney's public relations staff was out there praying that nobody noticed the train had fallen off the rails. When they saw the disaster, they chuckled. And then they made the decision to put on a special that burned everything down, with no survivors and no apologies involved. They are apparently going to do it once more in another episode just when you thought it couldn't possibly get any more ferocious than it already is. For the time being, however, let's go back in time before we discuss the new special that is rumored to be in the works. Let's bring it back a couple of weeks. Because this wasn't just a lousy movie launch, it was a cinematic version of strolling into traffic while wearing a "Hit Me" sign. Let's bring it back. Disney's been going through a rough patch. You know that one pal who gets dumped and then instantly finds 3 new interests and gets a buzz cut? It's Disney, right? They are in a difficult position because they want to maintain their legacy while at the same time they are attempting to demonstrate that they are in touch with the modern world. What is the end result? There are movies that have the feel like sessions of corporate treatment. Fans were not exactly throwing a party when it was announced that Snow White would be appearing. It seemed like an odd choice because it was out of date, difficult to update, and very simple to make a mistake with. However, Disney, in all of its self-assurance, declared, "We got this," and then proceeded to make every negative turn that was even remotely imaginable. The fact that they chose Rachel Zegler to play the lead character is not a poor move in and of itself. But when did she begin doing press? We did not have a really good press. She was very vocal about her disapproval of the first film.
I mean, you know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird.
Super weird.
So we didn't do that this time.
She referred to the prince as weird, questioned the love tale, and made it quite obvious that she believed the source material to be garbage.
She's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be. The cartoon was made 85 years ago, and therefore it's extremely dated when it comes to the ideas of women being in roles of power.
Consider the scenario in which you join up to play a legacy character, and then proceed to trash speak the legacy. In other words, it's the same as if you were Spider-Man and you said, "Honestly, I think webs are stupid." Rachel presented the remake as a feminist retelling, which might have been successful if it hadn't arrived with the intensity of someone being forced to participate in a collective effort that they believe is beneath them. The romance was completely eliminated, the prince was reduced to a supporting role, and the classic dwarves were replaced with a strange and odd group of different adventurers who appeared to have wandered off a Netflix pitch that had been rejected. And the fans? They were not going to accept it. The feedback that was posted on the internet was not subtle. Rather, it was a tsunami of confusion, frustration, and turmoil that was driven by memes. It was the fundamental question that kept coming up. If you despise everything about the original, then why are you going to remake it? Nevertheless, when South Park released their Joining the Pandaverse special, things went from being a mess to being a complete and utter catastrophe. They did not only make fun of Disney, rather, they completely destroyed the company's approach to contemporary storytelling. In addition, they did it with that wonderful South Park tone, which was deadpan, fearless, and yet funnier than it had any right to be. On the show, they took aim at what they referred to as lazy diversity, which is when businesses simply switch out characters and call it progress without actually making the effort to craft a meaningful tale.
With all your favorite South Park characters, there's Cartman,
I had explosive diarrhea all night.
Stan,
Dude, school is going to be so awesome today.
Butters!
Oh, hamburgers.
And oh my god, they killed Kenny!
I like big boobs. How does this even make any sense?
It makes perfect sense. I think the problem is you.
When the characters were reinvented, they were transformed into hyper-stereotypical representations of representation, screaming against patriarchy while existing in stories that had no substance. And what do you think? The audience understood the humor because they had witnessed it in action. Snow White was not the only single target. She was merely the most convenient one. The lesson that South Park was trying to convey was not that diversity is a negative thing. Rather, it was that if your interpretation of diversity consists of superficial changes that have no emotional weight, then you are not benefiting anyone. By doing so, you are simply disrespecting the intelligence of your viewers. What about Disney? They went into a panic. A quiet about-face was made by them after they had spent months justifying their choice to get rid of the dwarfs. In an instant, the dwarfs reappeared, appearing as if they had been artificially inserted at the 11th hour. On the other hand, rather than improving the story, it only made things more difficult. It would appear that they did not have any kind of eyesight at all. Rather, they only had vibes and panic button. It is said that Rachel was not happy about the situation behind the scenes. According to sources, she anticipated receiving plaudits, including articles about how she was bringing about a new age for Disney princesses. Rather than that, she became the poster child for everything that is wrong with Disney reboots, and she was roasted throughout the internet. She was also memed into oblivion.
And to everyone who hates when I win, the winged victory came to the Louvre in pieces, and people still line up to see her.
The fact that she has been slammed for seeming disdainful, entitled, and out of touch with the fans of the original makes us think of South Park once again, because there have been many leaks indicating that they are not yet finished. An additional special is apparently in the works, and it will concentrate on everything that has transpired after the Pandaverse roasts, particularly the failure of the film at the box office and Rachel's ongoing criticism from the public. It is possible that this is one of the few instances in which a cartoon show ends up causing more long-term damage to a big studio than any critic could ever hope to do. And if there is one thing that we have learned from the past, it is that going to war with South Park is not going to be successful. These individuals obstructed Scientology, challenged the top executives in Hollywood, and devoted entire episodes to the subject of those attempting to sue them. Any attempt by Disney to play defense, or even worse, to exert control over the narrative, will only serve to make the situation even more dire. On top of that, jokes are no longer relevant. The reason why satire is so popular is that it accurately reflects how a lot of people truly feel. They are exhausted by the never-ending stream of remakes, reboots, and reinterpreted classics that appear to be more concerned with checking off boxes than telling stories. Creating something that is interesting and inclusive are two different things. There is a distinction between the two, and if you are not performing either of those things, when you use a glossy filter, all you are doing is making noise. There is more to this story than merely Snow White. It is about a studio that has completely lost its way. By all means. They have lost the ability to just tell a narrative because they have become so preoccupied with messaging, optics, and attempting to be on the right side of every issue. Characters are what people seek. They want story arcs. They are not interested in lectures that are adorned with glitter. South Park did a fantastic job of capturing this. In other words, they did not challenge the concept of inclusion, rather, they opposed the way that it began to feel. When storytelling is pushed to the background in favor of marketing jargon, and when characters are transformed into representations of corporate values rather than people we care about, viewers are able to sense this. Moreover, they check out. In light of this, what are Disney's next steps? Hopefully we'll get back to the fundamentals, consider the original source material, employ people who are enthusiastic about the narrative they are sharing. Reconstructing anything with care, with a purpose, and with people who genuinely understand it is the best way to modernize it. If you are intending to update something, you should not simply remove the component. Considering the alternative, why? There are more failures, even more pushback. There will be other episodes of South Park that will turn billion-dollar projects into virally popular jokes. Therefore, as a reminder, here it is. Nostalgia is not something that can be capitalized on while using a checklist. It's something that you show respect for by showing a little dignity. It is not about proving that the original was incorrect when you rewrite a classic. Rather, it is about demonstrating that you understand what made the original work. What are your thoughts on the matter? Would it ever be possible to save Snow White? Are Rachel Zegler being unfairly dragged into this situation, or did she walk into it with her sword in her hand? Are we witnessing the collapse of a media empire in real time? Or are we simply witnessing a studio passing through the inevitable stages of growth? I hope you all had a good time. Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment.